Hi, I'm Greg. At Cambridge University Press, our research guides everything we do and helps keep you up to date on the key themes, ideas and principles in ELT. Which of course means that we can produce the best materials possible for teachers and their students. And in this video, we're looking at the key points from the Cambridge paper, Giving Feedback to Language Learners by Philip Kerr. Giving feedback is a very important part of how our students progress in their language learning. Let's find out more about it. First of all, what does feedback look like in the classroom? Effective feedback should advise a student on how they could improve their approach to a task, focus on those areas that they're most able to improve, and be a combination of both positive and negative feedback. So we now know what feedback is. However, what different types of feedback are there? Let's begin with corrective feedback. This is the most common type of feedback and focuses on learner errors. Here are some tips on how to use it effectively. Traditionally, corrective feedback focuses on our learners' grammatical errors. However, research shows that highlighting other issues can actually progress our students more. For example, research shows that a lack of speaking strategies can actually affect conversation more than a lack of grammar. So, when giving speaking feedback to your student, remember to highlight speaking strategies, for example, like buying time in a conversation. While when assessing writing, research shows that an equal focus on both content and grammar can actually progress our students more than just a focus on grammar alone. And what about the timing of corrective feedback? Researchers still don't completely agree if it's best to give corrective feedback during or after a speaking activity, as both methods have pros and cons. However, on the other hand, for writing tasks, research demonstrates that feedback is best given after the task, and that oral feedback is more effective. Now, let's look at peer feedback. This is where feedback is given by one student to another. Done consistently over time, it can promote autonomous learning and reduce a teacher's workload. Here are some tips on how to use it effectively. Before doing peer feedback, produce a model as an example for your students, and decide whether the peer feedback should be given orally or in writing, or in English or the learner's own language. When doing peer feedback, ensure that all learners know the focus of the feedback, push all learners to both give and receive feedback, and encourage learners to give overall comments before specific ones. And after doing peer feedback, explain the reasons for doing peer feedback and ask your learners to reflect on if they like doing it and how they would like to do things differently next time. Okay, so we've now looked at types of feedback and how a teacher should implement effective feedback in class. However, what should we do with the findings of the feedback? For speaking tasks, corrective feedback can often consist of just the learner repeating the correction that the teacher has made and not really learning it properly. Instead, ask your students to repeat the task with a different role or partner or after they've had more planning time. And for writing tasks, pupils traditionally do one piece of writing and then receive detailed corrective feedback. However, research has shown that the process writing model is actually more beneficial for our learners. This is where pupils receive detailed corrective feedback on one piece of writing and then repeat the writing again, making any necessary improvements. So, research can inform you of the larger themes that you need to consider in order to give effective feedback in your classroom. But before we finish, here are a few further research-informed bite-sized tips to consider as well. Be selective in giving feedback and focus on the biggest issues. Ensure you give positive as well as corrective feedback. Vary the focus of your feedback depending on the task. Experiment with when and how you give your feedback. Include more opportunities for spoken task repetition and redrafting of written work. And finally, encourage self-evaluation. But let's finish with perhaps the most important point, that every student is an individual. While research can guide us in the right direction, you know these individuals better than anyone, and you should personalise each pupil's feedback however you think is best. Remember, giving feedback is an art, not a science. It really comes down to being selective, understanding our pupils and understanding our motivations as a teacher, especially when it comes to thinking about what the feedback is supposed to achieve. If you'd like more detail about what I've spoken about in this video, you should check out Giving Feedback to Language Learners, the Cambridge paper by Philip Kerr. You'll find a link in the video description. Let us know how you get on with implementing these feedback ideas in your classroom.